Some statues just fit the how quickly can I do this meta, and so today I'm going to start a timer and see if I can do this quicker than I've ever done it before. Something that I feel... Oh, okay, wait. I should probably say who I am. This is Groundeffected. My name is your dad. And something that I feel is kind of overlooked a lot when it comes to painting models is that not every single model you paint needs to be a masterpiece, but rather it could be something that artists like to call a study. This is when you're just doing a study of certain colors, certain compositions, things, whatever it is that you're trying to get better at. Now, I have clearly overbooked myself with way too many promises to way too many people, but because of that, it's actually had a positive effect on my quality of work. Let me tell you for why. First off, this video was sponsored by Abe 3D, but I will tell you a little bit more about them later. For now, let me just get the practice that you would get in an entire month's of work in one day. Wait, 3 minutes after setting a timer, this guy on the internet is telling me that he's getting more work done than me. I'm going to put a little wager and say I can get it done in 5 hours, and that is because I'm going to forego a lot of the important things that most of you are sitting and faffing about while you're trying to learn how to paint model. Now, all I need to do really is get rid of some of those leftover supports and do a very minor sanding, because the truth is my model was printed pretty well in the first place. I've already waffled way too much. I'm setting myself a timer of 20 minutes to get all the preparation done on this model, including the primer, so that I can get this model painted. So I need to just shut my mouth and get started. A little bit behind schedule because we're 34 minutes in, and I have got my model parts prepped, but I haven't got them primed. So I'm going to need to quickly smash that out if I want any hope of getting this done. And in order to save time, I'm going to leave those parts drying while I move on to painting some of the metallic parts. And I've been experimenting with this AK Chrome. To be honest, I like it. It's a very nice shiny chrome paint, and it does not take 27 days to dry, which is pretty good considering. Now, as this is a speed paint, I need to make sure that I don't mess around painting things the wrong colors. So of course, I'm just going to lay down as many base coats as I possibly can, including the zenithal highlight that I need on the skins, and then move on to painting the undercoats for those skins, which I'm going to use a pinkle and obviously a red ink. And it's a good thing that I told myself not to mess around putting the wrong colors, so I'm going to now add some snakebite leather because I felt like the boots and gloves were the wrong colors. And once again, I felt like they were still the wrong colors, so I added some Gilliman flesh over the top of them. Now I can obviously move on to painting the skin tones, because I've definitely got the right colors on the boots and gloves, so I can just forget about them. It is no secret that skin tones is the area that I'm the most comfortable in, so of course making a model that is mostly just skin tones is going to be pretty easy and fast, and this is exactly why I say this is the perfect candidate for attempting to do the impossible and paint something in a very short space of time. And as long as I avoid making mistakes like painting things the wrong color, well then this will go a lot quicker. So this is a good time for me to now change the color again on the boots and the gloves. I just didn't feel like there was enough contrast, nor was it dark enough to actually contrast against the skin tones. And speaking of skin tones, now that I had let those dry because I was painting boots, I could now come back in and add Orcish Dermis, which I know is a difficult color to find, but this is the color that I use, and until it runs out, I'm going to just keep using it, and then I will figure out something after that. But I have, in previous videos, showed you what you can use in its place if you cannot find it. Yes, I know, the boots are back again. It's not because I got them the wrong color this time. Luckily, this time I'm just changing the top of them, that little fold over area, to be a little bit lighter, and then I can move on to now painting the undercoats of the flaps of this lady. I have no other way to describe them other than that. Using Sagor Brown, I'm going to go over any of the straps that are on the gloves, and there was some straps on her legs and body, and this is the same color that I used for all of those, which of course you could use a multitude of colors and build it up as well, but this is a speed paint, so certain things need to be left simple. This is the only way we can get through this very quickly. After dry brushing the base, I let it sit on the side to dry. Those words were so hard to come out, I don't understand why. But anyway, I left it aside to dry because even though it is dry brushing, the paint is still wet, and if you come back in and spray any of these shades or anything into the shadows of it, it will go a little bit weird. So I leave it aside to dry while I quickly painted the hair, and now I can come back in and use some shades to give it a little bit more flavor. There is a head on the base that needs to be painted, and I didn't want to take away too much from the composition of this model, so I chose to paint this head in very similar colors to the base, however using slightly different colors. I don't really know how else to explain this, but essentially the value of this is going to be the same value as the base itself, but just with slightly different colors. This way I can make sure that the beast isn't the center of attention on the model, and the center of attention is going to be obviously on the lady that is standing with her sword shoved very deeply into the throat of this beast. 2 hours and 45 minutes in, we are closing in on our target time. Can we make it? Who knows? The only way to know is to skip ahead and see if I do. But don't do that. Just stay around. By the way, this is a good time for me to tell you about the sponsor of this week's video. This is Abe3D, and their Patreon over on the Patreon is a place where you can get STL files of your favorite movie characters and comic characters and all those kind of amazingly cool, awesome, epic, nerdy things. Of course, there is a link for them in the description down below, so if you are interested in painting this model for yourself and seeing if you can beat my time, well then maybe you should check out the description to follow the link to Abe3D. And thank you, Abe, for sponsoring this video. And with a little over 2 hours left to complete this model, if I'm gonna even have any hopes of beating the wager that I set out for myself, let's pick a suitably epic melody to sit back and relax while we try to get all of this stuff done. To do cheap, quick, easy blood effects, what I'm going to use is Flesh Tearers Red, and the reality is I keep this paint specifically for blood effects in my arsenal because I can stick it on the end of a brush and blow it off with the airbrush, flick it at the model, throw it, whatever it takes to make it look like blood spatters. I'm gonna now start working on some of the weaponry, and once I'm done with painting them nice and cleanly, I'm gonna then spatter some blood at them in order to make them look like they were actually used and to sell the effects of this model. Remembering that this is a speed paint, I'm going to be using some of the same paint to paint different aspects of this model. For example, I have Sargor Brown out to paint the strap that's around her neck. I used that exact same color to paint her eyebrows, thus saving me time in opening a bottle, because of course that entire second would make a difference. I used a bit of Magos purple and I mixed that with some red to make her lips a little bit redder than I usually make them. I then put some Magos purple directly into her eyes, and then I used some Griff Charger Grey on a low pressure in my airbrush and sprayed that over the top portions of her eyebrows, well, underneath her eyebrows, the top of her eyelids, to make some form of makeup. I don't know if a warrior like this would be wearing makeup, but I feel like this just makes the face look a little bit prettier, so I do it. The other thing that makes it look prettier is the blush, which I use a fluorescent magenta to create, and I thin this a hell of a lot. Like literally, it basically does nothing for the first 10 squirts, that's for sure. And that is also probably what she said, but let's not worry about that and move on to painting the eyes, which I start out by painting this sclera using an off-white. It can't be white because if it's white, it will look weird as frick. And speaking of weird as frick, I need to paint green eyes. So I find that if you paint a solid dark green with a very bright green, the eyes will not look like green eyes. They will literally look like some sort of demonic creature. So in order to solve that problem, I paint a brown first and then a green over the top of that, which is slightly desaturated and not freaking nuclear green, because that will just look crazy. I can now add a specular highlight into the eyes, which is, by the way, the only white that I use on a model ever. I can now stick that head together because it's now ready to get its gloss coats, and I've found that this Vallejo gloss is actually nice and glossy and easy to use. But now I can obviously put the model together and stop my timer and call it done. And so in just a little over 4 hours, under 5 hours, which is what I said it would take me to paint this model, I have essentially gained the knowledge that I would have gained painting that entire statue. Of course, it is not the best it could ever possibly be, but it is not horrible, and the knowledge that I've learned from doing this super fast challenges like this, honestly, it's gone leaps and bounds in teaching me how to overcome certain problems, but mainly just because I'm doing the process and I'm doing it multiple times in short amount of space of time, giving me just epic practice the whole time. So if you are interested in trying to do something like this, I would be very much appreciated if you did tag me on Instagram or wherever you post your models and show me how long it took you to paint what kind of quality of model. Of course, we are obviously looking to gain some skills by doing this, so make note of what you're doing. You're not just smashing a model out the park, but maybe the first one or two of them you might not be able to take notes, but eventually you will start being able to take notes, and it will definitely help your painting. This is the end of the video, and I want to say a massive thank you to my Patreons, because without them I would not be able to keep the lights on, blinding my eyeballs, creating videos every single week. And also another massive thank you to Abe for sponsoring this video, and everybody who watched it. It is time for me to tell you the thing, and the thing that I need to tell you is, f*** off.